Hi, and welcome to episode 63 of the Walleye Chronicles. This week we have Alex Dvorak of Echo 4 Delta Outdoors, Ultimate Veteran Adventures, and Neptune Rod. So sit back, everybody, and enjoy Alex Dvorak. Dvorak of the man behind Echo 4 Delta Outdoors. He's also part of Ultimate Veterans Adventures, and some call him Mr. Neptune Rods. So how's it going, Alex?
It's good, Matt. How are you? Sorry, you're a little tongue twisted today.
Right. I was practicing it all day too. I had it out there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice this as I go through. And then when I started looking at it, I'm like, my brain just froze for a second. I'm like, oh no.
Not a problem at all, my friend.
So I always love having you on because you do one of the coolest things. You are a veteran yourself.
Yes.
But you also give back to other veterans, and you're part with your Echo 4 Delta Outdoors and with Ultimate Veterans Adventures. You give trips back and you help organize trips and get people out fishing. Tell me about how that's been going for the last year with you.
So it's been going good. For calendar year 2025, I hosted 14 trips with a total of 84 individual veterans. I don't count the same face twice. For my standard, that those numbers are kind of low. I actually had quite a bit of changes in my personal life that took time away from the program to kind of take care of my own stuff going on. So the summer was a little slow. The fall, we just did a duck hunt. Most of my stuff was actually winter and spring. So that's, this winter, for example, I currently have, between the one I'm running this weekend and the other ones currently scheduled, I'm on pace to do about 52 veterans from now through the end of February, and I haven't even touched my March yet. So I'm hoping by the time the ice is gone, I have 100 individual names out just to start this year. So I got the goal for this year is 350 or more. So I got some work to do to catch up from last year.
That is crazy. So what goes into all that? Because this can't be just you show up at a lake with a bunch of people. There's got to be a lot of stuff behind the scenes there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of behind the scenes work. I network with quite a few. Most of what I do is fishing related because that's a lot easier to coordinate than hunts. I have a lot of friends that are charter captains, diehard angling, Brocken and Reel and Guide Service, the Medusa on Buzz Charters out of Kiwani, just to name a couple off the top of my head. So that there's a lot of planning. If I'm doing like a trip in July, I'm already starting to kick the tires on it in September of the year prior. Like, for example, July 25th, we're going to do a salmon trip out of Kiwani. And I believe the last time I counted the boat spaces between those running doubles, those just running a half day in the morning or afternoon, I think we were over 40 spots to fill. And our goal is over 50 for that day. And it's anything from, a large event like that to, it's Monday, my weekend plans just canceled and it looks like a fishy forecast. So I'll throw out a post to take two in my boat and try to do our smile and fish impression of going on Lake Winnebago and not catching much besides the sheephead. I'm just kidding.
That's fine. So that's half the time too. So you put all this together behind the scenes then? Is it you reaching out to veterans, or is it like a database that you can kind of go to post things out for them to get these big groups out?
So I'd say about 90% of finding the veterans is through our Facebook page. So we do, I guess you could call it a lottery type basis, where we'll throw a trip post out for sign up. It'll have all the details, how many spots to fill, date, time, stuff like that. And they'll have to send in a proof of service document, which is typically their redacted DD-214. Sometimes you get guys commenting they don't want to send it in because there's personal information, but that's what the redaction is for. So you can just put a black box over their social, which if they don't want to do that, then all right, there's 10 other guys that want to take that spot. But then in the order of the submissions we receive, we put a number by their name and we use an online randomizer to draw names. And that's how we kind of keep it fair. However, one thing being that I run the Wisconsin chapter that I do differently, Wisconsin has a good problem in the fact that it's super saturated with similar groups. So there's a lot of opportunities. But a lot of those groups take the same faces out trip after trip, year after year. And part of my role with Neptune Ice Rods as general manager is to screen the donation requests. And I never really looked at it this way until I took over that role and started doing that. I try to focus on getting as many new faces out as possible and putting a major emphasis on the therapeutic aspect, where a lot of those groups are just free trip for vets, good old boys club. And that's not how I roll. So if I get wind of, someone that signed up, it's their first time with me in my brand or chapter, or it's their first time on any sort of event like that at all, because they didn't even know stuff like that exists. Because there's a lot more veterans that have no clue this type of stuff exists. And in Wisconsin, there's a growing number of vets that go from organization to organization, trip after trip after trip, which is fine. Like, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. But my policy is, once you've been out with me at least once, I give you one per season. So like the 10 that are coming with me this weekend, that's their winter trip. I won't take them again until the spring. And then so on and so forth. But there's also good veterans that, tip their captains really well. They purchase raffle tickets to support the organization. They volunteer their time. They don't blast you with a million questions leading up to the event, and they're very thankful. If Neptune donates some combos to the event, they'll go on and, order some. That's what I call my preference list. And I say that because it's usually the guys that are retired with nothing to do, where if I have a last minute fill in, okay, hey, I got the spot, do you want to go? And then if they go from my list, then I take them from the top of the list and put them at the bottom and still cycle through, so I don't take them more often than, and I think that's fair. And I'm a one-man crew. I do all the fundraising. I do all the coordinating, all the logistics, pretty much everything on my own. So if someone has a problem with that, because there are some people that, are kind of snakes in my grass, well, I'd like to see them do more than what I'm doing. So until then, I'm just going to keep running it the way I've run it. And I've had, nothing but compliments from those I've taken out. And there's only a handful that have actually approached me after the trip saying like it changed their life and it was life-saving. I think there's more, but that's also something that not a lot of guys and girls that served care to admit, and that's fine. I don't need to know. But even if I save one life out of the 200 to 300 vets I take out a year, that makes all the other stuff worth it.
So where do you go for fundraising? How is that for you? Is it anybody, everybody? How do you go about getting all this together as a one-man show? I mean, obviously people generally people want to give to organizations like yours, but how do you go about doing that? Just kind of banging on doors and...
There's a lot of different ways I approach it. I'll get stuff donated, like Die Hard Angling, for example. He's probably one of my biggest, if not my biggest supporter. He donates his time multiple times a year. He donates a couple trips to throw together for a raffle, stuff like that. And honestly, I have something worked out with him where if he gives me X amount of trips, like he'll run a couple that we can just take vets out on, and he'll donate a couple that we can raise money with. I just dangle a set of Packer tickets in his face and take him to a game every year. And it's, he's a little younger than me, but he's a good dude and he catches a lot of fish. So, we have like online campaigns that we run through the national organization too. A lot of emails to big companies, most of which never even so much as say no, let alone get back to me. But, a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. And actually last year, I promised I wouldn't say his name, but that I put on a big one for a group of 10 on Lake Ogeebic with Justin Sova every year. And one of the vets last year approached me after the trip, and I was adamant to not accept his donation. But he had such a good time that he actually pulled me aside and he's like, you either take this check or I'm going to knock your teeth out. He's like, I won $1 million scratch off last year. I'm going to get boned on taxes. I need a write-off. So here's a check. And the amount that he gave me is going to fund like the next 2 to 3 years, depending on how crazy we want to get with duck hunts this fall. So
That's awesome.
that kind of gave me some breathing room. But I usually at the ice show, when we're working the Neptune booth, we usually have something put together. The goal is always to raise $3,000, and that pretty much covers all the lodging costs for the winter. This winter is a little bit more expensive because I got hooked up with. So this is actually you'd appreciate this. I got Andy Gullickson, Backroads Guide Service, Beavertail Bait, running Eskimo. I got Ryan Salami from Ice Junkies running Clam, and I got Kyle Tyree, Otter Outdoors. 3 big heavy hitters in the industry all getting together for one big trip up in Barron County on Valentine's Day for a group of 16. And Andy hooked me up with an Airbnb that will sleep everybody under one roof. It's like an old restaurant they turned into an Airbnb. It sleeps like 30. It's got a game room, like a movie room. It's right on a lake. Like that one's going to be fun. But even though I negotiated a price with the owner, it's still going to be expensive. So that's going to soak up most of my funds this winter, which is fine. But I think the 3-headed monster of what those guys can do online for social media, I think will be worth it. So, it'll be a good one. I was excited when I got Andy on board, and then I talked to Ryan at the Minneapolis or the St. Paul show, and he got on board. And then I saw Kyle in Wisconsin, kind of told him about it. He was free that day. So we're like, hey, the 3 big brands are all, I'm kind of hoping that trip gets the attention of those 3 brands, and maybe we can grow it into something bigger, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one.
That's pretty awesome. So when they go out, everything's taken care of for them. They just got to show up and you take them fishing or hunting, and that's how everything goes.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Each trip is a little different, but when I work with guys like Die Hard or the 3 I just mentioned, they'll leave their gear at home. They'll just show up at a time and place we tell them to. We don't promote any sort of substance abuse while we're out on the activity, so there's never any beer cans on the ice. Those that smoke cigarettes, you're not going to smoke in the shack. So if you really need to, let one loose, you're going to go outside in the cold and then come back in and,
Right.
whatever. But yeah, otherwise, there's some times where it's just like, hey, we're having a meet and greet sort of thing. If you have your own gear, you want to come on the ice, bring it with. Otherwise, I've got X amount of stuff available on first come, first serve. When I take guys out in my boat, I typically tell them leave their gear because I got more than enough. There's no reason to, whatever. Plus, I run Elk River custom rods in open water, so I also kind of try to promote Mr. Mark Marone up in Phillips a little bit, kind of some word of mouth too. And whether or not those that have been in the boat with me have gone up there and used the nice discount he gives veterans to get one of their own, I have no idea. Hopefully they do, but all I can do is try at that point.
So what do you need to keep everything going forward? What do you look for every year? If it's sponsors, if people are listening, what can they do to get involved to help you out and get some more veterans out and about?
Besides funding, right now I struggle with the hunts. I think gone are the days where you can just go to a farmer's house, knock on his door, bale some hay with him for a few hours and get permission to hunt his land. I don't think that exists anymore. Everyone I've gone to has been very thankful of what I do, but has no interest to allow strangers on their land. And I get it. So land access for hunts, obviously funding, I have a guy, his name's Boyd Sutphin, Royal Rock Outfitters down in the Waupun area. I've hunted with him. I couldn't even tell you how many times. That dude is, I would like to see anybody else that can call in a flock of geese better than him. And he's usually got a cigarette in his mouth and a Mountain Dew in his hand, and he's just barking at them, and he'll get them to turn and drop right in. Like that dude's awesome. But he's put one on the last 2 years now, and I think it's going to be an annual thing going forward. But yeah, I don't have capacity to host any deer hunts right now. So help with the hunting side of things is definitely something I'm also looking for some people to kind of form a board so I can delegate some of the workload. And,
Right.
I've ran so many, this is going on 5 years of doing this. I've ran so many trips that it's gotten to the point where I'm kind of getting tired. So I'm going to like ball out this winter, but then going forward from there, I'm going to focus on more larger events and not as many onesie twosie, to add. I mean,
Yep.
at my peak, I think the most trips I've done in a year was 31. But a lot of it was like onesie twosie in my boat with the occasional group of 10 or group of 12, whatever. But yeah, obviously the more funds I have, the more opportunities I can provide. I don't want to be the group that collects money and never supports those that support us. Like, I would love to be able to, I'm just going to throw a random number. Say I raise 20 grand in a year. I'd love to be like, hey, Die Hard, here's, you know, 500-600 bucks. How many trips can we do with that? Or, hey, Boyd, I know we just did the donated hunt. Here's like $1,000. Take out as many vets as you can with that. I like to scratch the backs of those that scratch ours. I'll never pay them full price because it's for veterans, it's donated money, but I'd like to think, a little bit of support goes a long way. And it's crazy. I used to be with a different group before I started this chapter of UVA.
Hey, listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fixed TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fixed TV.
And I get more out of state people. Like, for example, January 23rd, I met a guy with Divine Outdoors out of Sheboygan. He guides the tributaries for like steelhead and salmon on the ice. What started as a group of 8, basically a group of 4 on one side of the bridge and a group on a 4 on the other, is kind of what we were thinking. I had over 70 people sign up for that, of which I think 15 are from Wisconsin. So I called them up, and we actually are making it a full day now. A group of 16, 2 groups of 8, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. I've already drawn the names for that one, but I've got Georgia, North Carolina, Kentucky, Michigan, Minnesota, and Iowa all having veterans from those respected states. I just need someone from the West Coast, and I got the entire, all the regions. But yeah, the moral of my story is I need funding so I can, put these guys up in hotels without making them have to add to their travel expense, stuff like that.
So what's the kind? Is there an average age of guys that are out there? The younger guys coming out now, or is it some older fellas, or kind of what's your demographics?
Well, my demographic is there's no one too old, and I mean we still take guys that are active duty as well. It all depends on the trip. Like if we're hiking through the forest looking for that little honey hole for brook trout or something, you're not going to see the older guys really sign up for that. But if we're on this big ass like the Medusa out of Kiwani, a big wide open boat, then you'll get some older guys that whatever. And I actually have access to a trailer that's got holes cut out for ice fishing and a pullover, like a flip over style blind you can actually hunt out of too. So I do have capacity for wheelchair bound guys. I just need some land to park it for hunts to get them out. But I would say it's very diverse. Like this weekend, I got a guy coming that I think he's somewhere between 24 and 26. And the oldest in the group is in his 60s. So it's it's kind of activity dependent. The more rigorous it is, the less likely you're going to see the older guys, but the more calm and less physicality, it's kind of a horse apiece, really.
What's the better part? Is it on the water on the ice, or afterwards when you guys get back to eating stuff and just kind of hanging out, talking?
I think it depends how the fish are biting, honestly. It seems like the more success we have, the more rowdy the conversations can be. But I don't think it's there's much separation from when we're doing the activity versus when it's done and we're eating. There's constant camaraderie. That when it's just as therapeutic for me to host these guys as it is for them to participate. Because when I'm around veterans, that's when Alex gets to be Corporal Dvorak. I don't get to be Corporal Dvorak very often, just for the sake that A, he doesn't have a filter, and B, he doesn't use work appropriate verbiage. So I have to kind of put a professional face on more often than I care to admit. But it's just the overall camaraderie, telling your war stories, kind of cracking jokes amongst the different branches. Like, people always ask me, "Oh, you're a Marine. What's your favorite color crayon?" I'm like, the purple and red ones. I embrace that stereotype. Actually, I have one of my home defense weapons, my Beretta pistol, actually has Crayola crayons engraved on the bottom of the magazines. So
that's funny. So basically, you're looking at we need to get you some funding. We need to find some people that got some land, they got some does they need to take care of. And how do they find you? How do they get a hold of you to offer that goods to you?
So the easiest way is to look us up on Facebook, Ultimate Veteran Adventures. When you go on the Facebook page, in the About info, you'll see contact information as well as the website. Obviously, if you go on the website, there will be more information to be had. Joe Wesner, the founder, he's based out of Ohio, multiple Purple Hearts, really stand-up guy, runs the organization to a T with a fine-tooth comb, does everything by the book. Before I joined UVA, I interviewed some vets that had been on the trips, some other state reps. Before I chose UVA, I did that with a number of different organizations, and I couldn't have been more impressed with how Joe handles his business. The vets that had been with him had good things to say. There's not a better organization out there to support, in my opinion. And we don't have the big corporate funding like the Wounded Warrior Projects of the world or the Folds of Honor. And I'm not knocking those organizations by any means. They do great stuff, but I like to think if we get the right funding and the right partners, we can definitely make a huge impact. And that every trip we do, I see the followers on the Facebook page grow. But yeah, like I said, I don't take the same face out more than once a season, up to 4 times a year. And we put a major emphasis on the therapeutic part. Even if they don't really want to have a fireside chat, we just make it known that it's available. Most of the time, the guy's like, "Nah, I just want to fish," or "Nah, let's kill that mallard coming in." Every once in a while, you kind of get them to open up and make an impact. But yeah, to answer your question, use the Facebook page and our website's there.
Awesome. Well, do that, people. Get out. This is a good cause. Get veterans out. So look up Alex and get out and support him the best you can. Turning gears. I hear that Neptune's got some new stuff coming out. And
yeah.
You are Mr. Neptune. So let's get into it. What do they got coming? Or what's out? Is it out already?
Oh, it's out and it's almost sold out. We sold the crap out of them at the Wisconsin show. Coots Lures did a video with it, and we had like orders out the ass for the first couple weeks as the holidays came and went. But I've been telling the owner, Phil Mathwig, who's also a Navy veteran, hence the name Neptune. I'm like, dude, we yeah, right. I'm like, dude, we gotta come out with a new logo. We gotta give the company a facelift. We gotta come out with longer rods. Like, is this something you just want to do for beer money, or is this something that you want to eventually retire on and see your product in like the Shields and Bass Pro of the world? Yep. So we did just that. We came out with a new logo. It's currently on our Facebook page as the profile picture. It's actually like a Greek god style Neptune. Like it almost looks like a stone statue. It's kind of from his side. He's sitting in his throne. He's got like one hand on his thigh. You can see the Navy anchor, the Navy logo on his bicep, like a tattoo. And then he's got a rod in his hand with our patented 45-degree handle with the crappie hanging off the end. The logo is a little busy, but I think it turned out great. My friend Sonia over in Michigan at Cuff Creations that came out with it did a phenomenal job. And then new this year, so last year we had a 44-inch hole hopper. We actually tweaked it a little bit. I think it's actually with the new blank that we use, I think it's more like 45 and a half technically. So we redid the hole hopper. We sold out of our 28 lights. So the new style that we developed with that reinforced shaft is actually a 30-inch light now. And brand new this year, the hot ticket has been the 38-inch quick tip power noodle style rod. The hole hopper, the new light, and the power noodle all have reinforced fiberglass shafts, single wrap titanium eyelets that basically just makes it easier to knock the ice out of them if it's cold out. But yeah, I've been telling Phil, I'm like, dude, look at all the big fish fluencers. They're using longer rods. Like we got to come out with something longer. Like the 24s, the 26s don't really sell anymore. The 28s, yeah, but we still gotta, we gotta keep it up to date. So, we're exploring the possibility of a 50-inch kayak rod. Whether or not that comes about, I don't know. We're also looking into expanding our jig poles potentially to a split grip straight handle, just to give our customers the option of a straight handle rod versus that patented grip we have. We're also looking into some 32, 34, and 36-inch lengths of various action as well. But that power noodle, I got to break mine in finally last weekend. Granted, it was only a couple bluegill, nothing to get excited about, but they were in that kind of what I call a Slurpees style bite, where they're just kind of slowly coming up to it, watch, and they just kind of gently slurp it in. Like if you're not watching your rod tip, you wouldn't even know there's a fish there. Yep. And the tiniest little whatever, and you just, if you're holding it from the pistol grip, all you gotta do is flick your wrist, and I did just that, and bam, there was a fish on. And the way that it's basically got the really sensitive panfish tip with enough backbone that it could wrestle a nice Winnebago or Poigan walleye. So you get the best of both worlds with that quick tip power noodle.
And I noticed at the Wisconsin show, you guys were one of the busier places. Like I tried to come talk to you a couple times, and every time I'd come over, you guys were just packed. You seem like you guys you had a great location. Everybody was stopping to see you, and you guys seem like you're doing really well there.
Yeah, we had a good show. I won't lie, we had a good show. I was actually waiting for you to walk by and say hi to Phil and, introduce you to, maybe get him on the show. But anytime I had free, I had like 5 minutes to run to the bathroom, and I'd come back and there'd be like a crowd at the booth. So then I'd do my sales pitch, and then another crowd would follow, and another. And it was crazy because there was a lot of people that would come and look, and then they'd go walk around, and we'd like, oh, maybe they're not going to whatever. And then like, as they're getting ready to leave the show, they come back and like, oh, we were going to buy one. We just didn't want to carry it around. So we had a lot of those. But I think everybody seemed to be doing pretty good at the show this year. Like there was a lot of people carrying a lot of stuff. Last year, that wasn't the case. It was a lot of window lookers. They were buying like their jigs and their smaller stuff, but I saw a ton of augers, flashers.
That was crazy. The amount of augers being carried out of there or carried around there. And there was a lot of money being spent. People brought their wallets. That was pretty awesome to see. Yeah.
Well, I think that goes with how last winter we actually had ice. This area, Winnebago, wasn't the greatest ice, but shoot, I did a trip last year. When was that? First weekend of March, last weekend of February? I forget. I had a group of 10 vets up in Phelps, Wisconsin, and I had to take my shovel and chisel the flaky ice down because I didn't have my extension. And I'm like, that base plate's that far off the ice, and I'm finally poking through. Like if my personal stuff that was going on didn't start at that time, I probably could have been ice fishing into potentially the third weekend of April up there. That was the most ice I've ever seen.
That's crazy.
So
So why the Neptune? Why should we get fired up on the Neptune rod? Talk to me about this. Revisit the 45-degree angle and why that's so awesome and why people need to try it.
Sure. So we have our patented pistol grip style handle. It has multiple uses. It was initially designed by Phil's dad, John. He's got carpal tunnel and some other wrist issues, and he just couldn't find a way to hold onto it comfortably. So over time, he developed that angle, and they refined it a little bit. They tweaked it a little bit. So we market it as the most comfortable rod on the market. Also, when you're holding it from that grip, all you have to do is flick your wrist on a hook set. You're not putting the wear and tear on your shoulders. You're not high sticking like some people do. Just a little flick of the wrist is all you have to do to get that hook through the fish's lip. Not to mention, we're a veteran-owned business based out of Wisconsin. All of our products are built at Phil's place in Alaska, and we are the only rod on the market that guarantees our stuff for life. So if a tip ever breaks, if a walleye snaps it in half, if the something with the reel goes bad and it's no longer usable, all you have to do is send it to us, no questions asked, and we'll send you a replacement at no cost.
Wow, that's great.
10, 20 years from now, if it breaks, get a hold of us, we'll replace it.
People don't do that no more. That's crazy. That's pretty awesome.
Oh. Yeah, you can't be.
That just shows you the quality of product you guys are putting out there, that you're not worried about having 10,000 show up at the doorstep tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, stuff happens, the old style shafts that we have, especially on the ultralight rods, like there has been some, that even my own that break, which is why we went to a different blank to kind of reinforce the fiberglass. But a lifetime guarantee is a lifetime guarantee. You break it, we're going to replace it. We're super responsive. If customer has an issue, just shoot us a message on Facebook. Either myself or Phil will be the ones replying. If I reply before he does, I just reply back with, "This is Phil's number. Give him a call. He'll get you squared away." And then, we've never had anybody complain about our customer service. We pride ourselves in our product and our customer service, and we back our products with that lifetime guarantee.
Awesome. How did you get involved with Phil?
So a number of, probably going on 4 or 5 years ago now, closer to 4 probably, he used to have a gentleman by the name of Caleb Wistad in the role that I currently serve. And he runs a page called Hooked Up Wisconsin. He's been growing year after year, and I've got nothing but awesome things to say about Caleb. Excuse me. But as his brand grew, he got in with bigger companies, Clam specifically, and we know how Clam is with, no competing products. So when the
shares.
Yeah. But anyways, when those doors opened for Caleb, or I'm sorry, right before, the year before Caleb got put on by Clam, he had a post on his Facebook page looking for pro staff. And up to that point, I had not really a clue what content creating was, what pro staff was. I was just looking for opportunities to support the organization I was with at the time. And I tell this to everybody that I pro staff for. I'm like, whatever's in writing, whether it's a discount code I have to use or some free samples to make videos with, I'll take that. I'll do my thing with it. The only thing I'll ever ask is support the organization I'm running in these vets. So I interviewed with Caleb. He put me on the team. That was the first year I started using TikTok. Phil saw some of my videos and really liked my creative flair. The next year, Caleb had to step down from his role to go on with Clam. So there's an opening. I had taken Phil that winter on that Lake Ogeebic trip, and his words were that was the best ice fishing trip he had ever been on. And he donates combos to that every year. So I wanted to offer him a spot on that trip just to kind of show him the impact that it has. And he had such a good time that he offered me the position. I do get paid a little bit. It's just kind of fun money. It's not like a full-time gig by any means.
Right.
You know, maybe 5 hours a week, just posting and replying to comments to get the weekly, you know, business goals on Meta hit. And then I just kind of let the numbers do themselves. But that's how I got in, was initially just as pro staff. And then I became the social media manager. And then when Phil asked me to take on more responsibility, I'm like, well, that's pretty much general managing. Why don't you just make me the GM and you can pay me a little bit more? And he's like, okay. And now here we are a year later after that. We got a new logo, some new rods, more rods in development. So I'd like to think that the company's, you know, on the up and growing. So
awesome. I mean, it definitely looked like that. You guys were pretty busy over there. So how's fishing been outside of everything? Have you got a chance to get out much, or are you too busy with all this other stuff going on?
I've gotten out a handful of times. My first time out, I was on Little Lake Butamore sight fishing. That was my first trip of the year. So I was just kind of, that's the trip where I kind of like, okay, which rods need attention? Which do I not have to worry about respooling? How's my auger running? I got the new Strike Master Maven this year, so I didn't have to really worry about how it was running. That thing cut like butter, and it sounds like a damn AI drone. The thing's sick.
Hey listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fix TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fix TV.
You know, I ran some tip ups. I wasn't getting any flags, but every time I checked the line, the minnows were gone. So I think those perch were just grabbing them, wiggling the minnow off, and then swimming away. So I didn't really catch a whole lot. I think my biggest that day was like 10 inches, but I was just sight fishing in shallow water, waiting for some big pike to not get me excited. The next trip I did, that was the Monday before New Year's. I had a good friend of mine that I served with that lives in Tampa, Florida, come up. It's only his second time ever being around, or second or third time being around snow, second winter visit in Wisconsin. He wanted to see the Northwoods this time and go ice fishing. So the last time he was up here, we did some ice fishing, but we weren't in the Northwoods. So we went up to Phelps and hit one of my honey holes. That was the day where we had that blizzard. And normally on this lake, I can look from the west shore out towards the east and see the islands and whatever else. I couldn't see more than probably 50 yards in front of us. So I'm like, well, we're just going to walk out. They just got dumped with 14 inches of snow. I'm like, we're just going to walk out to the edge of the weed line and hunker down. And the first spot, as soon as I dropped my transducer, I'm like, oh, we stopped like 50 yards too short. So I pack everything back up and I hoof it out another 50 yards. And sure enough, I found the break. He caught a couple fish. I caught some pretty dandy Northwoods perch, about 12 and a half, 13 inches. I want to give a shout out while we're at it to the Phelps Hillside Resort, because there was so much slush under that snow when we were packing up in the dark, making our way back. That little flip over shack that I have with all the gear in it that weighed probably 150 pounds on the way out was probably 600 pounds on the way in. And him and I, we're sitting there like, you know, an inch at a time, heave ho. We don't have any traction because it's slushy, this, and that. Yeah. It took us probably an hour to go maybe 70 yards. And I'm like, dude, just keep inching it up. I'm going to walk to shore and find someone with a snowmobile to drag us off. Like, this is going to take us all night. I can't feel my fingers. Like, it's starting to get dangerous. We need to get off the ice. Yeah. And these two snowmobiles were coming on from the access point, and I've never sprinted through snow like that before. And I ran into their headlights. I was yelling. I got their attention. They drug us to shore. We were kind of chatting it up a little bit, and it was Keegan and I want to say Brian, but I don't think that's correct. But the one guy's a fishing guide up there. The other is the owner of the Phelps Hillside Resort. So thank you for saving our ass. We'd probably still be up there dragging that thing off. It was not fun. So we did some fishing there, and then we drove up to Berglund, Michigan to stay at the Timbers, and we tip up fish walleye on Gogebic that Tuesday. And then this past weekend, I was out near Clintonville, one like 30 something inch pike that I let my friend's kid catch. But it's been a slow start. Like I haven't really had that day where I'm just like banging them one after another. So I'm hoping this coming week and I can finally actually rip some lips and make some content, because it's been a slow kind of tough start to my ice season.
Yeah, mine too. I haven't really had, I've had some injuries and some work stuff happen, and I haven't really get out too much. So I'm hoping to make a difference this weekend finally.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So is there any thoughts of any crazy things happening in the world of fishing that have got you hot and bothered, or is everything good? Any fishing hot takes you got out there? Any equipment hot takes?
I'm excited for Markham to come out with their own version of forward-facing sonar.
I have seen that. That looks pretty interesting.
I saw the prototype at the St. Paul show. I was actually looking into a live scope, but I'm a Markham guy, so I'd like to keep the red brand. So I'm waiting for that to come out, and that's probably the one I'm going to pull the trigger on. I think inland waters bag limits of 25 panfish are no good, especially with all this new technology. I think it should be a mix of maybe like 15, but only 5 of one species. I think keeping a limit every time you go is ridiculous. I think some of the lakes that I fish up north didn't have a good crappie spawn, because I spent a lot of time up north this spring, and every time I took my boat out, they were either still kind of on the deeper side of the weed lines or super shallow, but every time I was there, they were one or the other. Never saw them on beds. I think the Wisconsin DNR needs to look in the mirror and realize all the resources they're wasting with these lack of, pulling all the stocking programs that they had been. And I think that could be traced back to the politicians of the state. I'm not going to get political, but you probably know right where I'm going with that. So if anyone's going to take this seriously, fish conservatively this winter, because I would love to still have fish in the water for your grandkids someday. And who knows, by then it could just all be drone fishing where they're sitting on, playing video games. They got this little tablet and they have this robot that drops the line and it tells them when there's a fish on, and they flick the button. Like, I don't know. I think technology's mankind's downfall, but it sure makes fishing easier on big lakes like Lake Winnebago.
I have a question. I don't know if you've had a chance to use it much, play with it yet. Have you spent any time with Onyx Fishing yet?
I love that app. I think it's kind of foolproof, but I also think there's some fishermen out there that aren't smart enough to realize how to use it. They're just going to look at it for the maps and what species are there. But I love the fact that it kind of gives you a better idea of, should I go to this lake or is it a waste of my time?
Do you think it'll help or hurt the average person, like the average lake? Because with this now, it kind of opens up lakes that no one fishes. Like, a lot of the central Wisconsin lakes are now on the hit list. If you think about it, do you think that's going to be, that the Onyx Fish App is going to be an issue, or just going to be a positive thing and spread people out?
I'm hoping it spreads people out. I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue. It might take out more of your trophy-sized fish, but at the end of the day, the angler has to have the skills to be able to make those fish bite. Just because there's fish there doesn't mean you're going to put a pounding on them. You still have to get your line in the water and who knows, like some of those lakes, they say they're one thing, but how accurate is that data? I mean, we see how reliable the DNR can be.
That is true. Yeah, it's funny. I've seen it, I play with it, but unfortunately they still do not have an Android version yet. So we sit and wait here, the rest of us.
Speaking of that, I spoke with Mr. Joel Nelson in St. Paul. They told me roughly spring of 26, the Android app should be released.
That's what I've heard as well. So, but
fingers crossed. I'm sitting here like just licking my chops, waiting I'll be the first one to download it. I actually got a Starlink this year So I'll be able to use it like on a web browser, but obviously it's better to have the app.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then, I know it's just all that data is available, but I think there's so many people that are just kind of lazy in the world. They kind of just go where the bite's at and don't want to go outside the world. So it'd be interesting to see if those people will get off and stop just going honey holes and start going find new lakes for themselves to fish, or wait for somebody else gets out there.
Plus, you got to think too, a majority of those lakes, whether central Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, what have you not, how many of those are like on those forest roads that don't get maintained in the winter, that have a bunch of deadfalls and feet of snow to hike through, and you have to go miles and miles back just to get there. So even though like there's going to be some untouched like gems, what's to say there's still going to be untouched versus people getting back there too?
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, it just all the time. Everything's, it's just crazy. Everything that there's when you think there's nothing now, when you think there's nothing else coming, a whole bunch of stuff comes on the road. And you're like, wow, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Technology is cool, but man, I don't know. At what point do we like draw the line on that? You know,
is it because we're older? Is that because we're older? We think that. I mean, I have 2 live scopes in my boat, so I use them. But at the same token, I long for the old days, right? I mean, I bobber fish now more than I have in the last 10 years. And is it because I'm old, or because I want to get back to more of a childhood thing? And we didn't have technology growing up, right? And that seemed like more of a simpler time, and now it seems more stressful-ish at times.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I miss the days where you have that really oversized red and white bobber with a hook on that's way too big, and a piece of crawler that even a walleye would be like, okay, that's a little suspicious. And you're throwing it in like a couple feet of water, and there's no such thing as lake maps. There's no such thing as live scopes or anything like that. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm not anti-forward facing sonar. I just think if we're going to keep coming out with this technology, we have to take a long, hard look at bag limits and even possession limits potentially. But I also think that the more technology we have, the less skill the angler is going to have.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because I don't think some of these kids that come out now, I don't think so it used to be you started fishing and it took you years to develop kind of where you had to learn from people where the fish are moving, why they're moving, what kind of temperatures, all that kind of stuff. Now it doesn't really matter. Now you just run out, throw your live scope down, check around, go at 3 miles an hour as fast as you can and see if you can find something, hold up. You're not really finding out why they're there anymore. You're just locating them, which is, to me, this seems to be kind of an odd version of fishing now. It's not really, you're not using that skill you learned from your grandpa of, hey, they're here in the fall because of this and this. You're just going and stopping, checking all these places till you track them down, which again, we are finding fish in places we never would have expected them, but people, I'm guessing, would have known over time. There's people that would have knew that those fish were there, right? And just learning why they're there. That kind of, we're never really going to know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on. I always, I enjoy listening to you talk about helping the veterans and all the other things that you do with that. It's pretty awesome. A lot of stuff nowadays is about me, and not the other people. So it's cool to have a chance to talk to somebody that does that. You put so much time into helping other people. It's pretty cool. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate your kind words. Thanks for the opportunity to come on and kind of tell our story about what we do. And, doing that for veterans is what got me into the pro staff field. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm rolling with it. But I always, I'll never be the one to kind of showboat. I do my best to stay humble and remind myself why it is I do that I do. I do what I do. I almost pulled a U and got tongue twisted there. But no, I'm excited to listen to this once it comes out, and come springtime, I'll probably get a hold of you. Maybe we can throw a couple vets in your boat and we can have a battle of the two boats, no live scope versus live scope, see which one catches more fish.
Right. Yeah, I would love to do that. So love to do that. That'd be awesome. So yeah, everybody, if you're check out Alex's pages, Echo 4 Outdoors, Echo 4 Delta Outdoors, Ultimate Veterans Adventures. Check them out, help them out, do what you can. And until then, if you're looking to be on an episode of Walleye Chronicles, hit me up at my socials, and Smile and Fish on TikTok, or Matt Snell on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, there's 2 things you can do every day to give somebody a better day. 1, take them fishing, and 2, give them a smile. Thanks a lot.